welcome to my channel Tokyo Foodie Sarah. I am joined by my friend Gio.
Hello!
Hello!
Ciao!
Ciao! As I wanted him to share his experience as a foreigner living in Tokyo. This handsome Italian boy has grown up in Rome, studied in the UK, and has now been working in Japan for about 4 years. He is so freaking fluent in Japanese.
全然そんなことありません!
In this video today, I'll be asking him some questions about being a foreigner in Japan and just work in Japan and life in Japan in general. I'm sure some of you are interested in living in Japan in the future. His answers will be able to provide you with some insight. If you are interested, please stick to the end. Without further ado, let's get started into the juicy questions. Right, let's get on to the first question. So, how come you got interested in Japanese culture in the first place?
So I'm not particularly an anime fan myself, but when I was a kid, I was so into this anime called Meitante Conan, which in abroad is called Detective Conan. And I could see through that a lot of aspects of Japanese daily life, because there were always like murders in festivals, or like, I don't know, ramen restaurant, sushi restaurant, or I don't know, the onsen and things like that. So, and I thought, oh my god, this is so interesting, so different. So I wanted to study a bit more about the culture, and that's how I started studying Japanese.
Oh,
yes.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So how old were you?
So I think it started airing in Italy when I was 9 or 10, and I still remember the first episodes that I watched, and I was like, oh, this is so interesting. Like in one of the episodes, I clearly remember there was like a Buddhist funeral happening with the drums, and I was like, oh, I've never seen this kind of, like, you know, funeral, this kind of ceremony. So I thought it was really interesting, and everyone was wearing like a kimono or something.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah, I don't know, it just hit me, and I was like, oh, there are these like different realities, and it's really interesting. Yeah.
So you got interested in Japanese culture at around 8 or 9, as you said. But then why did you decide to go to a university in the UK?
So I thought to study Japanese, but I also wanted to make sure that I spoke English perfectly, because I knew that if I wanted to live abroad, I wanted to be first and foremost fluent in English.
Right, right.
And then as a third language, I wanted to be fluent in another third language, which happened to be Japanese. And also, when I was in Italy, you can't really do a double major with a language, whereas the major that I did was well, international management with Japanese language, and that was really what I wanted, not just the language, but also something more practical that I could use, and you know, to appeal suru tameni.
Right, right, yeah. So during your time as a university student, you studied in Japan for a year, right?
So on my third year, I went to a university in Tokyo, and I was in the shogakubu, so the commerce department, because it had something to do with also with my degree.
Right, yeah.
And yeah, so that was like one of the best years of my life, to be honest. The universities in Japan are so much fun. Like, and that's an understatement.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been, so you've experienced more than me.
Oh, yeah, that's
true.
Yeah, so the thing is that everybody's so, like, has a lot of time, because university, but don't say that. So, but universities in Japan are like, you know, you can have a lot of free time while at university, because, yeah, they don't require that much time to, you know,
to the course itself.
To the courses, exactly. Therefore, I was able to, you know, to do a lot of activities, like, you know, I took part to sakuru, and also...
Oh, you did the volleyball.
Yeah, and also I did like demi.
Oh, which demi were you in?
I was in a... Okay, this is so much fun actually. So I was in a demi where we were selling some products from Miurahanto.
Okay.
So some fish, like seafood products.
Yeah.
In a store in Tokyo, and the whole idea of the demi is to understand how to manage a shop. So it was a very particular demi.
Oh, that's useful, yeah.
And it was very useful. I really liked it.
Oh my god, yeah.
And it was divided in like Zaimu-bu, Marketing-bu,
really?
Kokoku-bu. It was really, really fun.
Wow. I wish I went to a Japanese uni.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So it seems like you had a lot of fun in the Japanese uni. But
Yes.
did you experience any culture shock?
Well, yeah, so I really thought that the way that Japanese people talk and the topic of conversations are so different, especially at university. My experience in England was that there's a lot of debates about like politics and like human rights. It was different, like just different topics are talked and like others are completely avoided. More political topics and things like that. So it was like the environment is completely different, and also I found that girls and guys don't really mix as much as they do in the UK.
That's so true.
Right?
Yeah. I felt that too. Because like company dorms are divided into boy dorms and girl dorms, and I was like, why do they even have to separate? We're like 22, 3-year-olds.
Yeah, and also like I think like people from the opposite sex are not allowed in, right?
No, they're not allowed.
Exactly.
Like not even my dad was allowed in.
Oh. Yeah, for us that's more like maybe high school and beforehand, like that division. It's not just the way that like the university is organized, it's also the way that people just don't mingle. That was something quite surprising.
Even from like high school, I feel like girls and guys get divided just educationally
Then there you go.
speaking. So I think it's natural for girls to mingle with girls. Yeah, it is just natural. We don't even think about it.
So for us that was more like maybe back in the 50s or 60s.
Oh.
So if I listen like to my grandma or like even my parents when they talk about the way society was back in those days, it was much more like that. Even the pictures that I see, it was very like almost segregated.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
but now I think in Europe especially we've really tried to get rid of this kind of gender-based division.
Well, I didn't know that personally.
We went deep.
We
Oh
did!
my god. Deep. Yeah, deep into the topic.
So you've mentioned both the good and the bad things. Not bad, but like something you kind of thought was unnatural for you. So you've experienced both sides. But has your kind of like willingness to live in Japan or kind of work in Japan increased after your 1 year abroad?
Yeah, definitely. Because other than these things which I felt that were a little bit unnatural, but everything else was so much fun. Like I had so many things to do. I went to karaoke very often.
Oh.
I felt like I was traveling in Japan. I was discovering so many things. I was I went to Kyoto. I went to like Okinawa. It was so much fun. Like everything was really amazing. When I went back to the UK for my last year, I was like really sad because I couldn't wait to go back.
Oh my God.
I had so much fun in that year. I met so many people, not just like from Japan, but also because I was exposed to this international community from my university. I was in the international dorm with all the ryugakusei.
Oh, okay.
So it was a lot of fun, and also not every night, but almost, we were going out like karaoke and drinking. And drinking in Japan is so cheap, by the way.
All you can drink.
Yeah, oh my god, so I really missed all the people that I hang out with, so I did all I could to find a job in Japan as quickly as possible, which I was lucky enough to do, so I went back eventually. That's why I'm here.
Good. So let's get into the work questions now.
Yay.
Now that you're a salary man in Japan, I'm a salary woman in Japan, by the way, if you didn't know.
A very good one, by the way.
He's a very good salary man, by the way. Yeah.
Hi.
Were there any differences between being a student in Japan and working in Japan, being a salary man in Japan?
So I felt like it was completely different. Very different.
Okay.
So it felt like even people around my age, and I was 25 at the time, everybody had to go to the next step after finding a job and starting a career, which is getting married and have a family. So I felt like that suddenly everybody was not into having fun anymore, like we were during uni, and everybody was like, okay, let's go to Gokong and let's find a partner, because that's what we need to do. And it could be that it's because I was in the financial industry, which tends to be much more conservative, and the people being there are more conservative. But I found that the sudden gap was quite amazing.
I mean, I know exactly what you mean, because it really depends on the person, but with Japanese companies, it really seems like some people enter the company to find a partner. It really depends on the person, but I have seen some people who have those aims.
Yeah.
So yeah, it also surprised me.
So that was also almost
like
a culture shock for yourself.
Kind of like a reverse culture shock, yeah.
Okay, so you did not expect that when you joined.
No.
Okay.
I knew people get married quite early, but not that early.
You didn't know the process and how the environment that would
Okay, so was there anything that really shocked you after you started working in Japan?
So I have two actually. The first one is the training. So every Japanese companies provides a certain amount of training before you actually join the department where you've been assigned to. And in my case it was a month training, and I found that it was really hard, and we were not really allowed to leave the place where we were confined. And yes, confined. And it was a lot of information that needed to be received and learned very quickly with no practice. As in, it was all theory of practical things. For me, I had never studied in that way, that much theory to learn and memorize, so I was not used to it, and I didn't do it particularly well.
Also, and it was all in Japanese? So.
Yeah. I found that this method was really foreign to me.
Do you not get training in Italy, Italian
I think you do, but it's not that much memory work. And it's more on-the-job training rather than... And also, I don't know, it's just the fact that you were confined, outside of everything. It felt really weird. And I have so many stories, maybe I will go one day into that. So that is the first one. And then the second one would be once you actually join your department, the one that you've been assigned to, the atmosphere is just so tense. I distinctly remember the first time I entered the department, and it was so quiet. In the morning, 8:15 in the morning or something like that. And nobody came to say hi to me, they just told me where to sit. I also worked after in known Japanese companies, and there's people say hi to you and stuff, but I remember that in that occasion nobody said hi to me, and I just sat there waiting for 9 to be introduced. And until then, nobody spoke to me because I had not been officially introduced. So I found that that to be quite weird.
I don't know, what were they thinking? Were they thinking, oh, I can say hi to him later? Or...
Well, probably not, because they didn't really. I felt so weird, the lack of spontaneity of people coming to say hi to someone new in your department. It just makes sense. You see someone new who's working in the desk next to you, and you naturally just say hi to them, right? And introduce yourself.
And if you need help, you can reach out to me or whatever.
Yeah, that would be what my expectation. Yes, exactly. Yeah. But that didn't happen, and it didn't happen even after I was introduced formally to the whole department. So I was like, okay, this is weird, but okay. But it was like that. So yeah.
Did you have a nomikai afterwards though?
Yeah, I did on the day. And everybody was really nice on the day. So how in nomikai but it felt like it was artificial in the sense that because it's a nomikai, then you're gonna be the center of the attention. But during the day, people don't really talk to you, so they just didn't. It was everything was organized and set in a prescribed way. No, so it was really constructed and artificial in this sense. It didn't feel natural. So that's why I said a lack of spontaneity. Yeah. そうですか。
そうですか。
すごい
大変でしたね。
そうすごく大変だったんですよ。なんかいろいろ。
Can you tell me what your week looked like in your first year at work?
I used to wake up quite early, at 6 or something, because I had to be at the office by 8 because my Shiro Tantosha was there at 8:05, so I had to be there before him because otherwise, I don't know, it felt like it was a big deal, whatever. So I had to be there by 8, and I had to take 2 trains, so it was 3 trains actually. I had to change twice. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I was living in a dorm, the company dorm, because as companies in Japan do. They give you a dorm if they're large companies normally.
And they're freaking cheap.
And they're freaking cheap.
Freaking cheap.
Yeah, so I started work at 8. Then we would go to lunch by 12. You normally go to lunch with your colleagues.
Yeah.
So, but you have to wait until Jicho stands up, and then everybody follows. It's not like, someone says, I want to go to lunch, let's go together. It's a thing. At one point between 11:30 and 12:30, Jicho stands up without saying anything, and Jicho is sitting close to you in the same shima as you. And so you also stand up without saying a word. Like there's no communication happening. Okay.
So it's like an unspoken rule.
It's an unspoken rule and also unspoken situation where nobody speaks. Until you get down to the actual shokudo, yeah. So there's a canteen in most Japanese companies, and it's really good. I have to say it's quite delicious. It's so cheap, and something around like 300 yen. And you have the choice of udon, ramen, soba, and also like two main courses with fish or meat. Yeah, so it's quite good. You have a lot of choice. So you go down, you speak like for 20 minutes with your colleagues who came down to you, and finally you start speaking because you haven't spoken a word until you actually sit on the table. And also, by the way, you have to be the one finding the table because you're the youngest, and there's also like a bunch of people from a company. So you find the table, you wait standing up until Jicho comes and sit down, or sometimes even Bucho, and if Bucho comes, it's a big deal. Like there's a lot of kyotsukai and stuff.
Yeah.
After that, there's like the afternoon, and there's normally work until, like people normally work until 8:39, so it's a good like 12-13 hours day. And it's just because there's a new law in Japan against overwork. Yeah. Personally, I was working until like 7:30, 8, depending on how busy I was, but never before 7. Because it was always like something to do, so I felt like I had to stay. But also, the week, right?
The week,
not
like
the day. Yeah. So, but then when I went home, I had to study because I had external exams that I needed in order to actually do my profession. Because there's a lot of certificates that Japanese law requires you to take in order to like sell certain products and things like that. It was really weird because during the week I was living the life of a typical salaryman, and I was just hanging out with either my colleagues or like the people at my dorm who were also my colleagues. And then during the weekend I was mainly hanging out with my international friends. And so it was really like a double life almost. So
right, yeah. What are the best and worst thing about working in Japan?
So the best things would definitely be salary, because normally entry salary in Japan is much higher than at least in Europe, at least in Italy and the UK.
Okay.
I don't know about the other countries, so I don't want to talk for those other countries, but for as much as I know, Italy has very low entry salaries.
Oh, really?
Whereas Japan has, even for the companies that don't pay as well, they normally have additional benefits if they're larger companies, like we mentioned the dorms and
cheap
like
lunches.
the shokudo. Yes, exactly. These things like that. So you end up not spending much, so you have a lot of available income at the end. And another thing would be the ease of changing job, which I'm proof of that because I'm at my 3rd job, and because there's not many young people in Japan, there's a lot of jobs available, but not as many people who can fill those jobs. So it's really easy to change job and finding the path or the industry that you're interested in.
Right. Okay. So these were the best things about
so these are I'm optimistic. I like to focus on that. But no, the worst things would be so especially if you're in a sales department, so you have to deal with customers and clients. They have very high expectations on what the service should be like, And this can be very demanding on you because you have to be really polite, you kind of need to anticipate their requests that they have so they don't even need to tell you. And that's kind of, the whole Japanese omotenashi, which, it's lovely when you're the client or the customer and you go, people who have been to Japan know that, but when you're on the other hand, as the person providing that service, it can be really tiring because, providing such a good service is tiring.
And I guess even though you are a foreigner, you don't get away with that in business teams in Japan, right?
I know, fairly so, because at the end of the day, you've been entrusted with Japanese clients, so why should you get like a preferential treatment, right? So where you want to play your foreigner card is to escape the whole joge kanke thing with your colleagues and superiors, because obviously there is, even abroad we're used to a certain respect that has to be given to someone that is older to you, but I feel like in Japan this is almost taken to extremes in the sense that if you know how hierarchy works in Japan, you really have to pay respect to your seniors. Like, you have to be really submissive.
Right, yeah.
In a way, like the whole behavior, you have to be like, there's an expression in Japanese which is like koshi hikui.
Oh, right, yeah.
And
which means lower back.
Yeah, which means lower back. but it kind of gives you the idea of what it really is, right?
Yeah.
You have to be like, it's more
like,
and I don't know if like most foreigners can get like can adapt to that, because it's not something that we used to. We didn't have that during like bukatsu in high school or in middle school, so it's really like a concept that is foreign to us. And because it can be really stressful mentally, maybe you want to play your foreigner card and just get some distance from that, because at the end of the day, the person that has to adjust to that is someone internal to the company, so it doesn't really matter that much, right? It's not clients or whatever.
You don't need to be providing the best service to your colleagues.
No, and especially not to that level where you almost feel like a slave of someone.
Yeah, true. So these were kind of like the serious questions regarding your work related experience, and let's get into some of the life questions. Yay! Some of the fun questions.
Yay!
Okay, so you've previously mentioned that you had some culture shocks when you were a student in Japan. But are there any like culture shock that you experienced after you moved to Japan that are not like work related?
Yeah, so normally in the UK, but also in Italy, you have a doctor who does a checkup of whatever problem you have. So you've been assigned to this doctor, you go there for anything, and then if a further research is needed or a further diagnosis is needed, then you go to the hospital or whatever like specific center. But in Japan, you actually have to choose yourself the clinic where you want to be done the first checkup. So you don't know, like there's so many private clinics, how do you choose one? And then also some clinics do only certain things, like you have Naika, Geika, but also you have some more specific ones. So for some problems they cannot give you a diagnosis because they're not a specific clinic for that issue. So I don't know, I found it really confusing. Also, I never know which clinic to trust, which should I like check the what people think about that online and things like that. I don't know, I found it a bit confusing.
That's interesting, because for me that's like normal. That's just it just comes naturally, and like when I don't know which clinic to go to, I just kind of like look up online on my symptoms and then see if I need to go to the ear, the jibika, or like the ganka, hifka. Yeah,
but I mean, so for a specific part of your body it makes sense, but then like let's say that you have, I don't know, like a more general issue, like I don't know, a swollen gland.
Oh,
where would you go?
Right. Oh, Naika?
Naika kana? So, Naika kana? ってなるじゃん.
And then you go to Naika and they'll be like, oh,
like,
you have this symptom, so you should go somewhere else.
So that one, I found it a bit confusing. And also another thing that I found confusing is waffle pasta.
What?
Sorry, I'm Italian. I found it confusing.
I love Japanese style pasta.
Which one do you like?
The one with like baby sardines, shirasu, and like perilla leaves, boba.
Ah, perilla, yeah.
I like those.
Shiso, yeah.
Yeah, shiso's really nice. What?
But I like tarako pasta.
Tarago pasta is great. Oh my god, I also love
I like tarago pasta. Yeah.
Is that like the only Japanese style pasta you approve as an Italian?
Yes. But it's fine. I mean, I'm open-minded, so I like people. I understand that, you know, in the UK we like our avocado on our sushi.
Oh
so,
my god, no.
You know, yeah. So I understand. I actually like it. So I understand everybody has preferences, and that's fair enough. So
Okay.
I don't like spinach in my pasta. Like
Okay.
I don't like cabbage.
Do you like spinach and cabbage in general?
Yeah.
But just not in pasta?
Yeah, because I feel like then pasta, like then it's not a sauce. It's just like a salad with pasta inside.
So like, in Italy, do you guys have pasta with spinach and cabbage? Like the traditional?
Not really, and especially if anything in Italy, if you have any veggies in a pasta sauce, it would be like, you know, you use a blender, then it becomes like a puree, and then it becomes a sauce, because normally things are made into a sauce, so you don't have like pieces of leaves in the pasta.
Oh. I mean, yeah, now that you mentioned it, yeah, you guys have like tomato pasta, carbonara, and these don't have that much veg inside.
No,
So-
I mean everything is called pesto because, you know, there are different types of pestos, but pesto means that it's squash. So normally veggies are squashed.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that. That's interesting.
If you leave it like the whole leaf,
yeah.
to me it feels like a salad with pasta inside, which doesn't happen. It makes me confused.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No, but I mean, I understand that everybody has different tastes, and you know, food changes with time, so that's okay, right?
Ooh,
I'm
that's-
that open-minded, huh?
So you're not that happy about the Japanese style pasta, but is there like your favorite type of Japanese food? Let's get onto the positives.
So positive, I'm gonna be basic. I like my sushi
Okay.
and my sashimi that I like to get half price after 8 on my local supermarket.
I use that
Because
technique
I also like,
too.
yeah, cheap stuff.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and normally if it's not half price, it's quite expensive. So yeah, I like hotate.
Oh, I also like hotate.
Really?
My viewers know that I like hotate as well.
Okay, really? I didn't know that. I love, like, I went to Ishikawa once. Sorry, this has nothing to do, but Ishikawa, like, the hotate was this big. Like, it was like a shell this big. It was
Really?
the best hotate I've ever had. If you go like to Noto Hanto, amazing shells. Also, for desserts, like for sweet stuff, I love yatsuhashi.
Oh my god, I
yeah.
love yatsuhashi.
Yatsuhashi is this dessert typical of Kyoto, which is also my favorite city. I'm that basic, but yeah. Yeah, very,
Sushi in Kyoto.
Oh my god, yes. I feel so basic. Yeah, so yatsuhashi, there's many flavors that you can have it. The most traditional ones is like cinnamon or like green tea or anko. But I think they've branched out now, so you can find all kind of flavors.
Yeah, literally like banana, strawberry,
Yeah, chocolate.
chocolate,
Yeah, peach,
peach,
sakura.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
sakura
there's so many, and I love them. And it's good because I actually don't like tsukemono. So, and Kyoto is famous for tsukemono. And whenever I go there, I cannot enjoy that, so at least I can enjoy the dessert, and I'm happy.
Oh, I love yatsuhashi. They're like, red bean paste covered with mochi, sheet of mochi.
Yeah.
They're amazing. They're quite expensive though, right?
Yeah, so normally like a box of like 8 costs around like 590 yen, and I don't know why I know so much about them, but
590.
590. They look like ravioli.
Oh, actually, yes, they
Yeah.
do. Like a really big version of ravioli.
Yeah.
Okay, now, so Gio, can you tell me the best and worst thing about being a foreigner in Japan?
Yeah, so let's start with worst.
Okay, negative first.
So negative first. One of the worst things about living in Japan is housing.
Okay.
So now I don't live in the dorm anymore. And when you have to look for a house, it can get quite tricky. Because there's so many landlords who don't want to rent out to a foreigner, regardless of you know, how fluent they are or how much they know Japan and Japanese. So you know, the choice can be quite limited, and you are left with like some of the worst bukken out there. So that's a bit sad. And you know, I have experiences of actually going to the Fudosan gaisha and having the salesman who's helping me finding a house calling the landlord or the company that is taking care of that apartment, and then them being like, no, we don't rent out to foreigners. And you know, the salesperson is trying to convince them and be like, oh, look, he speaks Japanese perfectly, you know, he has a job and whatnot. There's this unconditional rule of certain companies or landlords whereby they don't want to rent it out to foreigners, and that's, you know, that can make you quite sad. So that's, you know, the worst thing I can think of. But then one of the nicest things is that there's so many things to do, even now with COVID. Like, there's so much to travel within Japan.
Yeah.
And so many things to see, and that's kind of similar to like living in Italy.
Okay.
So in Italy, there's so many places to go to if you want like to travel within the country. And same thing is for Japan. There's so many like different cities. For example, last year during the first wave of COVID, I went to Kyushu and I did a road trip in Kyushu, and you know, Fukuoka, Miyazaki, Kumamoto, and like Kurokawa Onsen. So many things to see, beautiful. Then I went to you know, some of the islands in Okinawa. That was so much fun as well. Okinawa. There's a bunch of islands, and you know, every single island is very different. You have so many places you can go to, so you never really get bored if you enjoy traveling.
And also, if you love food, there's always like the local dish where you can enjoy it in like different cities. So that's also great.
Yeah, exactly. It's things that you can never try and eat. And this is also very similar to Italy, because you know, wherever you go in Italy, there's different things to eat, different foods, different kind of people. So it felt really close to me, to my own culture, but also like in a different context.
Right, yeah.
So I really like it. You never get bored. That's why I love living here.
Oh. Okay, now that you've answered a lot of my questions, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Prego.
Prego! Oh, prego!
Yes.
I do have a few viewers who want to live in Japan in the future. Do you have any like particular messages you can send out to them?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Do you want to move your hands a bit more? So, yeah, first of all, I would say learn Japanese as much as possible. You want to maximize your experience, and you can do that by knowing the language, knowing what's happening around you, knowing what kind of events are happening around you, and you can do that in most cases only if you master the language, or at least you understand what is happening. And second, I would say, you know, just don't be afraid to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, and especially when it's, you know, a culture that is so different from yours, it's normal to make mistakes. Some people may forgive you, some may be a little bit more difficult to you, but at the end of the day, who cares? You're trying something that it's outside of your comfort zone, so why not? And third, you know, you might meet some people that are not as open-minded as you hope they might be, because, you know, at the end of the day, you're also meeting people who have never lived anywhere else, and that's okay. You just need to find better people and create your own circle of friends and people you trust, because at the end of the day, all the hassle that you go through, it's really worth it, because I personally had an amazing time in Japan, so why not just challenge yourself? Yay! Sounds like an ad from, I don't know, the 80s. Challenge yourself!
Challenge yourself!
So challenge yourself!
Challenge yourself, Nike!
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Gio. We were filming for almost an hour. Well, thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you are interested, Gio has an Instagram, so I'll link it in the description box down below, and he might be starting his own YouTube channel soon, so stay tuned for that. Follow him on Instagram and stay tuned for the YouTube channel.
Yay!
Yay! I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to give it the thumbs up and subscribe to see more future videos about Japanese foods and culture, and perhaps more collabs with Gio.
Yay!
Yay! Bye!
Bye!